ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Meat Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on, we thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Today on Psychos and Sociopaths, we're going to talk about, can a house get you to kill, murder people? Can that house? Or is it just a facade? Anyways, today we're going to go over Robert DeFeo Jr. Robert DeFeo Jr. was born September 26, 1951 to March 12th, 2021. He was an American mass murderer who was tried and convicted in 1974, killing his father, mother, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters in the Amityville, Long Island, New York. The Amityville horror house, which a lot of people condone, that got Robert DeFeo Jr. to kill and murder because he wanted to get into heaven. That was suspected until Robert DeFeo eventually came clean about what was truly going on. And maybe the house made him to do it, or maybe it was something else. Now, the case was inspired by the film version of the Amityville horror. If anybody knows, there was the book was authored by Jay Anderson, published in 1977. It was based on a series of films released in 1979 onward. There was one in 1992. There was also one that Ronald, my beloved Ryan Reynolds. And we'll go over this first. The book describes as the house of 112 Ocean Avenue, which they actually had the address changed because a lot of people were going to the Amityville house and the owners had wanted to change. As it remained empty for 13 months after the DeFeo murders. In December 1975, George and Catherine Lutz bought the house for what was considered a bargain price of $80,000. The 5-bedroom house was built on a Dutch colonial style, which basically looks like an oak barn. So it was also had a swimming pool and a bathhouse, and it was also looking on a canal. Which, if you actually look at the house, if you don't know the story of the Amityville horror house or any of that stuff, it goes for, I think, about, let me look up something real quick, because I think it's like $1.3 million right now. See, for sale, yeah, $1.46 million. Nostalgia. But the whole plot line of the movie is the house is haunted, and the father of the house tries to commit the same murder that Robert DeFeo did, killing his whole family. Funny story on this. Me and my brother-in-law, when it first came out, the one with Ronald Reynolds came out, we were watching it. We were reminiscing about the original. And then we got to the end of the plot of the movie where everybody gets away from the house on a boat going down the canal. And me and my brother-in-law looked at each other. He's like, he cannot at any point in time not doing any kind of stuff that the wife wants him to do, because he doesn't have an out anymore. Basically, it's like, hey, honey, can you take out the trash? Well, I'm not feeling it right now. Hey, but remember that one time you took an axe and tried to kill the whole family? I'm taking out the trash or dishes. You can't not do dishes. Hey, can you do the dishes? I don't want to do the dishes. Well, but remember that one time that you tried? Yeah. I get the notion now. We're good. I'm gonna go do the dishes. Anyways, getting back to the story. Now on the story of Robert DeFeo. Robert DeFeo was he did the murders, supposedly. I went over a lot of the stuff. He finally went over the murders on a couple of. I did a. He did like a couple of interviews. He was actually known at the facility that he was at, and he was always wanting to get they because of the Amityville horror movies and his stuff on this, and we'll get to the murders. Robert DeFeo, he ended up having basically a lot of people wanted to get interviews from him. He wanted to get his story straight at the end in his twilight years before he died, which I guess he kind of did. And this else distills of the trial, but we'll go over the murders here. Now, I want to get over the murders, but I honestly wanted you to know Ronald DeFeo, he was a complicated man to the point to where he was an alcoholic. He did drugs. He started on crystal meth, and he started on heroin. He was a drug addict to the point where when these murders were done, at the time of the murders, he was on heroin. But let's go over the murders. Around 6:30 p.m. on November 13th, 1974, DeFeo, who was at the then 23, entered Henry's bar in Amityville, Long Island, New York, and declared, "You got to help me. I think my mother and father are shot." DeFeo and a small group of people went to 112 Ocean Avenue, which was located near the bar, and found that DeFeo's parents were dead inside. One of the groups, DeFeo's friend, Joe Yensiewicz, made an emergency call to Stanford County Police Department, who searched the house and found six family members dead in their bed. The victims were Ronald Jr. Sorry. The victims were Ronald Jr.'s parents, Ronald DeFeo Sr., who was 43 at the time, Lois DeFeo, Burchett, fuck it, 43, and his four siblings, Don, Allison, Mark, and John. Not all of different ages. Don was 18, Allison was 13, Mark was 12, and John was 9. All the victims have been shot with a 35 caliber lever action Marlin 336C rifle around 3 o'clock in the morning. Of that day, the children had all been killed by a single shot, while DeFeo's parents were each received 2 shots. Physical evidence suggests that Louise DeFeo and her daughter Allison were awake at the time of their deaths. According to Suffolk County Police, the victims were all found laying face down in the bed. The DeFeo family occupied 112 Ocean Avenue since purchasing it in 1965. The 6 victims were later buried in St. Charles Cemetery by Farmingdale. Ronald DeFeo Jr., also known as the Butcher, was the eldest of the children and of the family, and he was its lone surviving member. He was taken to a local police station. For his own protection, after suggesting to police officers the scene of the crimes by a mob hitman Louis Finley. Fallon. Fallony? Hold on, everybody. We're going to learn some words. Here we go.
Fellini.
Fellini. Louis Fellini. However, an interview at the station studio exposed a serious inconsistency in his version of the events. The following day, he confessed to carrying out the killings of the killings himself. And Fellini, an alleged hitman, had an alibi proving that he was out of state at the time of the killings. DeFeo told detectives, "Once I started, I couldn't stop. It went so fast." He admitted that he had taken a bath and redressed and detailed where he had discarded his crucial evidence, such as his bloodstained clothes and the Marlin rifle and cartridge before going to work as usual. During the trial, DeFeo's trial begun on October 14th, 1975. He and his defense lawyer, William Weber, mounted an offending defense of insanity. This is where it gets to the house did it. With DeFeo claiming that he killed his family in self-defense because he heard there's voices plotting against him. The insanity plea was supported by the psychiatrist in the defense, Daniel Swartz. The psychiatrist for prosecution, Dr. Harold Zolan, maintained that although DeFeo was a user of heroin and LSD, I guess added drug, he had an antisocial personality disorder and was aware of his action at the time of the crime. The trial judge, Thomas Stark, declared that DeFeo's crimes were the most heinous murders committed in Suffolk. God, I'm going to butcher this county's name. Hold on real quick, people. We are about to learn why I messed it up.
Suffolk.
Suffolk County since its founding. On November 21st, 1975, DeFeo was found guilty by 6 counts of second-degree murder. On December 4th, 1975, Judge Thomas Stark sentenced DeFeo to 6 sentences of 25 years to life. DeFeo was held in the Sullivan County facility in Fallsburg, New York, and until his death of all of his appeals, and requested to the proposal had been denied. Controversies. All 6 of the victims were found face down in their beds with no signs of struggle. The police investigation concluded that the rifle had not been fitted with a sound suppressor and found no evidence suggesting that having been administered or any kind of suppression administered to the rifle. DeFeo claimed during his interrogation that he had drugged his family. DeFeo had a volatile relationship with his father, but the motive for the killings remain unclear. He asked police what he had to do in order to collect his father's life insurance, which prompted the prosecution suggest at the trial that that his motive was to collect the life insurance policies of his parents. After his conviction, DeFeo gave several varying accounts of how the killings were carried out. In a 1986 interview for Newsday, DeFeo claimed his sister Dawn killed their father, and then their distraught mother killed all the siblings, apparently with a rifle before he killed his mother. He stated that he took the blame because he was afraid of to say anything negative about his mother to his father. Michelle Brigant Sr. and his father's uncle, out of fear that they would kill him. His father's uncle was Peter DeFeo, a capo, and Genovese crime family. In this interview, Genovese crime family. Okay, there we go. In this interview, DeFeo also asserted he was married at the time of the murders to a woman named Glasdale Gates, with whom he was living in New Jersey, and his mother phoned to ask him to return to Amityville to break up a fight between Don and their father. Subsequently, he drove to Amityville with his Gretchen's brother, Richard Ramondo, who was with him at the time of the murders and could verify his story completely. In 1990, DeFeo filed a 440 motion, a processing to have his conviction investigated in support of his motion. DeFeo asserted that Don and his unknown assailant, who fled the house before he could get a good look at him, killed their parents, and Don subsequently killed their siblings. He said the only person he killed was Don, and that was by accident as they struggled over the rifle. Again, he asserted that he was married to Jessadine and that her brother was with him at the time of the murders. An affidavit for Richmond Ronaldo was subsequently to the courts, and it was asserted he could not be located to testify in person. Evidence was submitted to the courts by Suffolk County District Attorney Office, suggesting that Richmond Ramondo did not exist and that Justine Gates was living in upstate New York, married to someone else at the time of the murders. Gates did not testify at this hearing because the authorities had already confirmed her about the false claims, and in 1992 secured a statement under oath where she admitted Ramondo was fictitious and that she did not actually marry DeFeo until 1989 in anticipation of the filing of a 440 motion. Judge Dart denied the motion, writing, "I find the testimony of the defendant overall to be false and fabricated. His testimony that during the fall of 1974, he was married and lived with his wife and child in Long Beach, New Jersey, is incredible and without worth of belief. He produced no collaborating evidence in this regard. Other reasons for my disbelief is of the defendant's testimony is demonstrated by consideration of several portions of the trial's testimony. He signed a lengthy written statement describing in details of his activities. In this statement, he said he lived with his family in 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, and he was working with his father. That he usually went to and from work with his father, that he was ill and stayed home from work on November 12th, 1974, that he was on probation for having stolen an onboard engine and had an appointment to see his parole officer in Amityville on that very afternoon. Defendant's girlfriend, Mindy Wiltz, testified that she began dating the defendant in June 1974 and with him frequently that summer and fall. Stark further declared defendant's testimony that he did not shoot and kill the members of his family is likewise incredible and not worthy of belief. Now, saying that, there's other speculations of there's other speculations that his father was in the mob. He had a Buick sells car lot that he was trying to get rid of. The grandfather ran the business in the ground. They're trying to get gather money up to. They were going to bankrupt that business and go to Cadillac, selling Cadillacs and Chevrolets. Now, DeFeo, when he was doing the interviews, kept on saying that his family was in the mob, which it was shown that his uncle was in the mob. Doing that, it ended up to be in most of the interviews that he was doing that DeFeo wanted to show everything that was in the mob. He ended up he was basically a courier for his dad in and for his uncle to take loads of money and put in the bank or put into stash houses or use the stash houses at the Amityville house. Now, saying that, the other side of that is through the book Amityville Horror, which we now know was basically a load of fiction. And it says on the cover, the original cover, Jay Anderson, the Amityville Horror, a true story. Now, saying that, we'll go with the plot on this, which I already described. On the plot of the Amityville Horror House, what it ended up happening is they went with the story of Robert, not Robert, Ronald DeFeo. God, can't believe I forgot his name that fast. Ronald DeFeo. They went over his story and they made a couple of liberties. The liberty was that he murdered his entire family. One version was because of the devil made me do it. He was hearing voices, which it could be a cause to the amounts of drugs that he was using. So he might have been hearing those. He might have been hearing those voices in his head. Now, there is another instance that a comedian, Chris, God, Chris Damasio. Anyways, he was saying that his uncle, she, and this is confusing a lot. His uncle, that was a she, basically his aunt now, was in a cell next to DeFeo, and DeFeo kept on saying, I didn't kill the grandmother. I didn't kill the grandmother. Which I don't think those claims are real anymore, or they could be. Going over the accounts, DeFeo was a very troubled person, but what's the whole thing about this is the Lutz did eventually buy the family home, and according to Feo, he knew the Lutzes. They were family friends of his that got high together and everything, which would account for the reason why they kept on seeing ghosts and everything. That could have been that all the drugs they were doing. But for the Annabelle true story, the father ended up going crazy because of the ghost. They had a priest that was trying to exhibit or would it be a exorcist in the house? I mean, anyways, he was trying to purify the house of all the evil spirits in this house and couldn't get it done. The family finally sold the house. They eventually sold the house. They took as much as belongings as they possibly could, left the house, and never returned and sold the house. Now, saying that, there was another family that eventually bought the house. They said the same thing. As soon as they got the house, they felt that they were having ghosts there that was trying to ruin their lives. It was the whole Amityville horror house is starting to try to get them to kill again, or get the father to kill again. Now, this property has been sold 4 to 5 times since the time of these murders. And of the first 2 families that bought the house after the murders, the other 3 was like, no, it's just a regular house. Nothing really bad. We didn't even know about the horror stuff until someone said something about it after we sold it. And because they asked, it's like, are you selling the house because of all the ghosts and everything? No, we got a bigger property. But that's where it comes to Brown's, where did the house make them do it? And just for clout, I suppose. But it was one of those things that Did it happen like that? Because there is a lot of horror stories, and I'll admit there's some horror stories if you go back and you listen to it. There, I believe in ghosts, but I don't believe in the ghosts to where I have to see it type deal. Trust but verify is my little angle. There's a lot of stuff out there that we cannot explain, and maybe that the house try to kill the whole family. Well, other than that, thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed this little segment. I'm doing it quick this time. I'm sorry if it's a little bit too fast for everybody, but this I'm end up having a family vacation, so it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna enjoy it, and hopefully everybody listens to this and enjoys, and I will get to know y'all better, and hopefully we can. I'm gonna be in Tulsa this week for a gun show. We're just gonna go to a gun show. It's gonna be fun. Hope everybody's out there that listens. If you do listen and you catch me up at the gun show, want a picture, whatever. But anyways, love you guys. Talk to y'all later. Goodbye.